Hello and welcome to our daily sketching routine. It is Thursday, August 28th, 2025, and today's topic will be painting skin tones. But before we begin, welcome back if you're returning, and welcome if you are new to the channel. I sketch and post every day, and I use a timer to stay focused, and to build a habit, I'll start a 10-minute timer. This is part of a series. I think this is the fourth. I started on Monday, so this is the fourth video. I'll link to all of those, and you can check out the other videos for more details. After yesterday's video, which was about painting this sunrise, these are Sharpie creative markers, and I put down swatches, other colors on top of it. Specifically, I mean, that's helpful in general, but it was specifically towards how to achieve different skin tones using these materials. And I mean, it kind of deserves its own deep dive to paint portraits. Again, just kind of play around with this if you want to do something similar. I mean, it's helpful. I can kind of see how I could use this for other things too. And then the other thing is to find reference. I mean, there's a ton of photos, obviously, so just different people. For this one, for example, I started with a blue base, so maybe that'll be the first thing I write down is like the base. Again, it all depends, so I would recommend just looking up a lot of different photos and deciding, for example, what you think the kind of the base color is. But obviously it takes experimentation to see, and because you're painting, you can also paint on top of it and it has like a different effect to it. So I'm just going to use that one as an example because it has the most detail. So that's like the base color. I do recommend to keep it simple, that's why I'm doing this, before adding a lot of complexity to it. And then it's good to kind of let it dry, and then I'll kind of play around with some other things. So all of these were from using these paint markers, which is acrylic, but then I have some Sharpies, which again, the other videos talk about that. And so I kind of added that a little bit right here. So yeah, I started with like the green base color with like the orange. So then the orange would be called let's just call that the mid, or like the mid-tone, like the middle color. So let's say that I have like this bunch. So that was just a thumbnail and like a color thumbnail. So for example, I'm just gonna do this. This is the initial, it's like one layer, and it does affect it. The brown was from the marker. I'll just leave that for a second. Like the mid-tone color, I'm just calling it that, but it's basically on top of like the base color. And this is, even if you're not using these materials, it's not a bad way to approach it, even if you were painting this digitally, or if you were doing, I mean, this is just acrylic paint, so I would use the same process for just acrylic paint, like with bigger brushes or whatever. Now I toned it because I have markers, and so it's a mixed media kind of thing. I'm okay with that. Like, I like the feel of that. Now if I were doing like a big painting and wanting to use the same kind of approach, that's kind of its own topic, but like I would tone it down with I mean, there's a lot of different colors for acrylic. The next thing would be like the dark color. So the dark color here, I just went ahead and used like a black brush pen that I have for that. So here's like the dark color. That's kind of like the next kind of thing. So you'll notice like here, this was the base color with like a mid-tone color. And then you can usually want to go like with the dark color to establish like the light and dark, but like it depends. So the dark color was this. And it doesn't have to be like black. It looks a little more either dramatic or like cartoony or whatever. This one I just used like a brown Sharpie marker. So you just kind of have to think of how to get that dark color. There's going to be harmony because since you're keeping the color scheme simple, when you introduce the dark color, it'll be harmonious. Kind of like with this, it'll go with it. If you keep the palette like limited, that could be like the next step. So I'll just use this. Maybe on these, like I won't do that with this. Like with this one, for example. So you might want to just draw in like the dark areas. And you can paint over it, so. Again, this isn't really like how to draw heads, but this is the kind of stuff I would practice. The green is the base, the orange is like the mid, the white is the light color, and I'll get to that in a second here, and then this is like the dark. And you can decide like what the light color is. I mean, I'm just going to go with this white marker. This is that color scheme, and then you have like the light color. So that's like the basic approach. So I'll leave that for a second, and then I'll do this real quick. I won't be able to do all of them. Part of what's going on here is because like the lighting is like that and like the background, and so I kind of want to play around with this one a little bit. This one I used the orange base and then the yellow on top of the orange and then white for like the highlight, which I haven't put in just yet. I'm just gonna paint in like the background because it's a lot of the lights being reflected onto the person. There's a lot of yellow and like the background is basically yellow, so I'm just gonna do that. So it just overall has like that look to it. And then I would keep the color palette or the color scheme very simple. That's kind of like why I did it like this. I'd keep it simple so that you can, number one, have like the color harmony be okay and understandable. Like when you look at a photo, you might want to simplify the colors so that you can also keep the values like understandable, like simple. Now how to actually draw the person, that's its own thing. So that's why you sketch and stuff. That's why I recommend sketching. Yeah, so like the highlight color, I'm just going off of this one right here. Just gonna do this. Like, so that's the light. And then the next question might be, well, how do you get like the dark? So this one, I'm not going to use a Sharpie. I'm just going to stick with the acrylic paint. So I'm going to go with the darkest green that I have. So in these paints, there happens to be like a dark. This is the darkest green. So in one of the videos, I kind of showed like they have the primary colors and then like these. And this is also helpful because, I mean, there's a ton of different paints you can get, and you can't really like buy every paint that's out there. So I'm just going to use like this, for example. So yeah, for the dark areas, I'm just going to, again, you kind of have to know how to draw like the face. So I would just practice with pencil or pen so that you can be comfortable drawing like the face or the head. So this part is kind of like this. So that's the dark area. And you kind of just squint at the picture. So it's pretty similar to just doing like a pen and ink drawing. It's just values. So yeah, I'm just going to use these paints. So that's the color scheme with the light and dark. And I'll do some videos about painting portraits. It's kind of its own thing, like I said. And you just keep refining the shapes for like the details, but that's what it's built on top of. So once you get this far, if you wanted to detail the thumbnail, which I happen to have markers and stuff, so the one thing I did was I have this marker, and so I toned down that yellow. I'll just call it like the tone. And I would use it for the mid and like the light. You can tone it down, so like to get like that kind of look, and then you would just paint on top of it again, but that's again like a different process. And then the thing that makes skin an interesting kind of thing to paint is that this started with like a different color scheme and like base colors than this one, but I'm going to use this, which is the same tone as I'm calling it, and just kind of go over this part. So you'll notice, like, just by doing that, it looks different, but it's using the same like tone color. You could even tone like the dark color. You could add this. See? That way you can kind of push like the dark color. Like I didn't do it as much here, so you can see like the blue is sort of showing. So let's say you have something kind of like this. Let's say you put down like some dark color right there. You can go back to the yellow, because that was the color scheme right here, and just paint over it. And what will happen is that that yellow will be a little bit darker, but that's just after one layer. Kind of like that. And that's how you basically add detail to it without the like in a painting approach, like a painterly approach. You're not really using the pen to like draw with it or anything. And then yeah, to like refine it, you would just stick with the color scheme. So alright, so we're wrapping up the 4th week of a 4-week commitment to sketching. Thursday is complete. I'll link to all the information. Let me know if you have any questions, but I want to thank you for joining me for our daily sketching routine. And if you enjoy these videos, please support the channel. I appreciate it. And until next time, keep on sketching.